Youth Sports Network presents TouchDown Ontario with Devin Gilmore McNeil.
Welcome back to TouchDown Ontario's 2024 season finale here on TYSN. I'm joined by my usual panel of guests. Russell, I'm going to throw it to you first. How you doing, buddy? How was the last few weeks for you in the football world?
It's been doing great. Still kind of taking it all in from the championship weekend. Still been thinking about it a lot. It's been a little while now, but I'm happy to be back to this, final kind of show of the fall NCAFA season. So very happy to be here.
And then Jesse, what a few weeks of football. You've been around the football landscape for a long time, and what's the last few weeks been like for you and seeing all this great football action here in the city of Ottawa?
Yeah, it's great. There's definitely so much football happening in the city. We've talked about it in the past on the show, just like the celebration of Championship Week for NCAFA, how special that is. It's always an extra cherry and bonus when the weather's good, and we got that in the month of late October and November. Up until really this week, we haven't had any snow, any significant amount of snow, and that's just helped kind of boost the attendance of all the events. But it's been great, and I like to look at it from kind of like a top-down view. There's a lot of attention, a lot of excitement, and more people getting involved in the league. So I would say that's a good sign.
Absolutely. Well, the snow is now falling, gentlemen, and that means the football season in Canada is over with. All the high school bowl games are done. The NCAFA's done. The Fall Cup's done. The Grey Cup's done. It's all done. So what a great opportunity for us to jump on here and kind of recap the last few weeks. You haven't seen us, you haven't heard from us in about 3 or 4 weeks, but you know why, because all of you hopefully were taking in the NCAFA Championship weekend, Fall Cup Championship weekend, and also the High School Football Championship weekend. I believe we live streamed about over 20 games in the last month, and that doesn't even count the OSFL, the Red Black weekend. So TYSN's been busy, but we've heard you guys. We heard you at NCAFA Championship weekend. Everybody wants this recap show, so here we are bringing it to you. We got a lot to cover, gentlemen, so let's get right into it. And we'll start with the NCAFA Championship weekend, which we did, I believe that's 3 weekends ago now. It feels like just yesterday. But what a great weekend, spearheaded by the Canada Granite sponsorship of that NCAFA Championship weekend, which from my purview is the first time a corporate sponsor ever kind of spearheaded that operation and put their name to NCAFA Championship weekend. This was the 69th championship weekend, so long overdue, and it was just a great partnership. I know, obviously, I was on the broadcast commentating a lot of these games, but some of them that I weren't, I was obviously taking in on YouTube, watching the stream, and seeing every touchdown be presented by Canada Granite, and seeing the Canada Granite truck outside in front of the stadium was awesome to see. Love to see that partnership. They did a great job of being there, and I hope everyone kind of rallies behind them and thanks them for actually putting a sponsor to this great championship weekend, and what a championship weekend it was. Jesse, maybe I could throw it to you to touch on it a little bit more.
No, I think it's important to give the recognition, and I was in the stands for many of those games and talking to people, and you would just hear the PA announcer also just hammering Canada Granite. Yeah. So some great exposure for the business, and it makes me want to redo my bathroom and put wall-to-wall granite in there. But no, it's good. I like I said before, I think when you see those things happening, that's a good sign of health for a league. Is other partners are coming in, people are carrying, and I just think we've returned to this many times. The importance of what we're doing is this feeling that young people are recognized for what they're working hard on, and the community supporting them. I always look at the United States, maybe some of it is myth. I'm sure not every little town in America has a crazy football program or a community, but a lot of them do, and we see on TV it kind of sensationalized, but when you go to NCAFA on that Saturday or Sunday when the weather was good, it looked like it could be middle America, right? So yeah. I think that's a good sign of what's happening with football in the province, and also here in Ottawa.
And then before we kind of break down these matchups and some other things like the Hall of Fame, Russell, I wanted to throw it to you. Obviously getting to see you interview so many people throughout that weekend, whether it be before the game, after the game, at halftime, you were interviewing anybody that's anybody over that weekend. What was that experience like for you to kind of get the community feeling of that going on? And then also just to get to see the joy on these kids' faces after the game. I remember going back and watching a lot of the interviews you did, and just the excitement to see you, and props to you. You did a bang up job. But what was that experience like?
Yeah, well, it was my first championship weekend. I'm not from here, so the league and this whole experience as a whole is very new to me. And it's kind of cool, too. I'm from a small town. I don't have anything that's kind of like this. So it was kind of surreal to see how everyone just kind of rallied behind it. They came out today, and I remember the first kid I interviewed was from Tyke, and I came up to him and was like, hey, do you want to interview? And he was like, you want to interview me? Like, he was so happy. He burst up with joy, right? And then just seeing his parents, too, and family members filming him, getting interviewed. It's a great experience, and I think, even as I got to the older ages, they all were super happy to get interviewed. They were super passionate. I remember interviewing a couple Panthers players at the end of the game, and they were so high on adrenaline. They were just yelling into the mic, and I love the energy. I've played sports all my life, so being around other people when you win a championship, it's a great experience, and having the adrenaline of people around you, it's just surreal.
Yeah,
I noticed too. Like every time, the parents were like watching the interview, and then they couldn't even help it. Like they weren't even like 2 steps away from Russ, and then people like put their arms around them and it was like, yo.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool for the whole family.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, and I think. Sorry, Russ, go ahead.
No, that was it. Just saying it was a great experience.
Yeah, no, and I think getting to be a part of that is such an awesome thing. And obviously, I got to see you not only interview players, but I also seen you interview a Red Blacks player. I seen you interview some Hall of Fame inductees, past Hall of Fame inductees. So that was really cool to see because you kind of got the around the horn experience of the joy of the players and then people taking it in from an outside perspective. So, hats off to you for getting there and being like our sideline guy, getting everybody like coordinated down there. You always had somebody with you to talk to. I mean, it was great to see. It really added a lot to our production, in my opinion.
And I think it really speaks a lot to the community as well. You see, you have a Red Blacks player showing up to a NCAFA Championship game, Hall of Fame inductees, CFL legends, and just the fact that they're like so down to get interviewed and talk about how important the weekend is to them and just how cool it is that, second overall pick from CFL, Zach Belhassi it's like, yeah, I'll do an interview. It was great. And then I exchanged phone numbers. I was like, yeah, if you ever want to do a follow-up, he goes, yeah, it's great. I want to talk about football community. So it's really just goes to show how there is a very strong football community in Ottawa.
Well, you interviewed a member of provincial parliament.
That
was a big deal. And then that led to conversations where he wanted to do high school stuff. So, I mean, it really is bringing people together and creating opportunities.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into the Hall of Fame induction and these games, one more quick shout out. I want to shout out everyone who came out and helped TYSN or NCAFA with these championship weekends. Yeah, round of applause to all of you guys helping, volunteering, whatever it may have been, general volunteering, working the gate, just being kind of a floater, or the media crew that we had, which was absolutely fantastic both of those days. And then we'll get to the Fall Cup, but same thing at the Fall Cup. Just a few people to shout out. Frosty, who his name is Mitchell. He's a mechanic actually, and he does this on the side. He loves it. Great guy. He got some great content. Our guy Jared, who's been making some great videos. You definitely seen his video of the Raiders and the Panthers game, and that was fantastic. Sarah was doing a bunch of photography for us on the sidelines. It was cold, but it was great to see all these TYSN media volunteer pennies on the field. Wensley Media too, Jess, was on the field. So a bunch of people for a bunch of different games. I mean, I was watching from the press box, obviously commentating these games, and aside from the jerseys and the referees and stuff, the thing that stood out to me was all those TYSN media pennies on the field. And I'm like, this is getting covered this is a big deal, and it should be because it is a big deal, right? But I just want to say thank you to all those volunteers, and then of course our crew in the booths, behind the stands, in the U-Haul, Steve and Spence on the ones and twos doing everything they need, and then up top, right above me, I got the heat, the warmth of the press box, but above me were our camera ops, and they were definitely freezing their butt off. But they and Russ, yeah, you were up there too, and shout out to them, man, because that is a grind to be up there, and we had people doing different shifts and stuff, but I couldn't be more proud of our team.
Yeah, the unsung heroes of a broadcast, right?
Incredible.
No, I agree, Devin. Like that was super cool, and I even there were people that came up to me, young kids, they looked like they were maybe 12, 13, 14 years old, that said, hey, I'm here to volunteer. I didn't even know what to do. I had to go get you, Dev, and be like, some kids are asking to volunteer. I don't know what to tell them. But they ended up going to the gate and helping some of the NCAFA executive. Yep. So it's pretty cool. There's some intergenerational things happening, and I've never seen that happen before. So there's something good is happening, whatever this show or whatever the other media coverage is doing. It's creating more momentum, it seems.
Yeah, and then 2 more shout-outs I want to do before we dive into this action. Obviously, the commentators in the booth, I was in there for a lot of them, but also Zach from Myers, who was just a treat to have. I was able to call a couple of games with him. Great personality on him. Loves his Myers riders, but was also just very good in the booth. Knew what he was talking about. He's a great guy. Make sure that you go check them out. I'll throw up a picture. I was able to get a couple pictures of them in the booth commentating here after this. Also, Shane was able to join us for a few games, which I've had the pleasure of doing games with him in the past. And then obviously to cap it all off, or actually at the start of the NCAFA Championship weekend, for the varsity game, we had obviously the A team of Jeff Karate and Ron Raymond in the booth for that one. So that was great to hear. Great to hear a bunch of different voices getting to call these games over the weekend. You really felt like you were watching like CBS and then Fox and then NBC, right? We had a bunch of different broadcast teams, so that was always obviously great to see. And then obviously just a huge shout out to NCAFA and their ability to throw this event on each and every year. It's such a success. It's run very smoothly. People are on and off the field quickly. The awards are already there to be presented to these teams. So hats off to the whole NCAFA board. And you always seen all over the field people with the NCAFA jackets on. The Hall of Fame area where everyone's talking and doing great stuff. I just want to say hats off to NCAFA and thank you for having us and letting us broadcast these games. And it was just a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it looked super legit, and another thank you to the Myers Riders for doing the canteen.
Yes.
I had my first Sandy sandwich, of course, named after the late and great Sandy Ruckstall, ex-president and founder of the Myers Riders, I think. So no, it was cool. It's like everyone rallied together to make something like that happen. Like no one could just start that off of scratch. Like this is, you could tell, a result of momentum over 69 years of just the reputation and the efforts of the community to pull that off. But it's super cool. It's super cool. And also shout out to, Ron Raymond and Jeff, like you mentioned, like they came in, they did a great job on that midget to like set the tone for the weekend. And I want to mention that Ron Raymond, one of the most, if not the most important quarterback coach in this area of the province, he's got programs I'm seeing promoted online. So if you're a quarterback watching this or in the league, you might want to check out his off-season programming. And I guess that's the time of the season we're entering now. Like kids are off, they're done, they're recuperating, and now they're looking to like up-level their skills, their knowledge, and their fitness, strength, speed, skill. So there's lots of options in Ottawa, as I'm sure there are across the province.
Yeah, no, Ron, specifically is just oozing with football knowledge. I obviously got the chance to call the high school championship game with him, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But obviously, one of the most prominent football figures in the city of Ottawa and Ontario. So make sure you go check out Capital QBs and all the great stuff that they do. But you're right, yeah, they set the tone for that weekend. But let's start right there. I kind of want to start with that varsity game because, all season long, right, Bel Air was taking care of Canada, and we thought maybe this was finally the year that Bel Air's going to get over that hump because they had for the first 7 or 8 weeks of the season. They fall up short, and Canada, that championship pedigree, I mean, it comes through, man. It really does. Bel Air makes a nice comeback late, but Canada pulled out all the stops, man. Double passes. Their defense was phenomenal, covering receivers, not giving Bel Air anything, which, we mentioned it at the top before the weekend happened. It's tough to beat a team 3 times. It doesn't matter really how talented you are, and Bel Air couldn't beat them 3 times, and Canada wins the most important game of the season. So what were your guys' takeaways? I'll start with you, Russ. Obviously, we covered the varsity division pretty closely. A tough swallow for Bel Air, but Canada, once again, man, they come through.
Yeah, I think, like you said, it speaks to their championship pedigree and how it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. We saw that here, and football's such a strategic game. It's all plays, right? So when you face a team once, you kind of you learn from your mistakes and you battle for the next time. So if you lose again, I think if you lose 3 times in a row, it's like, what are you doing? Like you kind of have to, you're going to game plan around. You're going to find the weaknesses. You're going to find out how to beat the team. And that's just kind of what happened. It's really hard too. I can only imagine Bel Air going to halftime. I was like, okay, we got to find a way to game plan around their game plan for us. But it's kind of hard to do it in just one halftime, right? So, yeah, it speaks to their championship pedigree. They've been here before. They've won it a bunch of times, and they showed again why they're the best team in the league.
And you know what? Bel Air
Yeah.
did almost make that comeback. I mean, they were storming in that second half. It looked like it was going to be a blowout. I want to say it was 24-7 at half, maybe 21-7. But I mean, they were running away with it. And I remember the last big play of the first half was that double pass, and it caught Bel Air by surprise. And I'm like, well, I think this is it. I think they just took the wind out of their sails. But no, Bel Air marches back. They scored 2 quick touchdowns, passing touchdowns, marching down the field. And then they had a chance to take the lead. In the fourth quarter, they had a run. They give it to their big running back who fumbled the ball, and Canada was able to pick it up. So it could have went either way. And every single game that these two have played over the past, 3 or 4 years now has been close, and it's come down to the wire. It just seems like Canada's got their number in these championship games, man.
This varsity league, it used to be midget, always produces a great final. Doesn't matter who's in the game. And yeah, the Norsemen did not disappoint. They made a game of it. That was a fantastic football game to watch. A lot of skill in the field. The exchange on that handoff, I think it was kind of their fullback. I think.
Yeah, it's their main guy though. Yeah, it's their main running back. Yeah.
Their main guy, but on I think it was first and goal. So it was just, the exchange looked weird right from the start, and he put the ball on the turf. Kind of a devastating way when they came back, and they had all the momentum at that point. But I think overall, you're right. Like Canada just consistently made the plays they needed to make on offense and defense, and that huge run I think in the first half for the running back at Canada, broke one for over 60 or 70 yards. Jeremiah Hay, those are things that are hard to come back from.
And they almost did.
Canada definitely, in my opinion, deserved to win that.
Yeah, man, it's tough. Hats off to both teams. Hats off to all 4 varsity teams. It was really fun to cover that and watch the plays of the week happening every week in that division. And that's just, we could talk about it maybe quickly here, but is that becoming the best rivalry in all of NCAFA? Like specifically at that division, like is it Bel Air is Bel Air Norsemen versus Canada Knights the best rivalry in NCAFA right now? Because man, you don't want to promote what happened, but they were getting real chippy on that field, man. They actually called the game early, which you never like to see, but I understand it. Obviously, these are 2 teams that are playing in their 4th game or whatever it was, and probably their 15th game against each other in the last 4 years. This has got to be in the running, Jess. I'll throw it to you. Like, this got to be in the running for best rivalry in NCAFA right now.
Yeah, I think definitely it deserves that consideration. I will say though, like it kind of a little bit of the wind comes out of the sail of that argument in that there's 4 teams.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like, sure, it's a rivalry, but it's maybe the only one that there is. So yeah, I mean, it's not like they're defeating 12 teams to get to the championship every year. Like they're, it's 50% chance of being there. So, but I will say that the emotions were running high. And I think anytime you pack the stands around them, the whole community's watching. These are proud young men and girls. And I think also 2 great motivators, field generals in Adam Gilmore and Tony Vellante. And you can tell that, after halftime, both teams kind of came out with a little bit of extra juice. And that's, I think, a direct result of, those 2 motivators. And, so yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I don't know what to expect moving forward with that division. These gentlemen have been doing it a long time, probably can't do it forever. And then, that rivalry is that, are we going to see that continue on, or what's going to happen, really?
I can only imagine that rivalry continue on. I mean, I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit on the fact that it's not a rivalry. I think it 100% is. When the games are always this close and it's always coming down to the wire, it's always a shootout, it's always pretty much must-watch games. And the fact that they're getting chippy on top of that, too, I think when things start to get outside the realm of actually playing football and they get to these kind of scrappy, feisty moments, it does speak that it's a rivalry. When the emotions are flying so high like that you don't like these guys, it's definitely a rivalry.
And you feel it. You can feel it on the field, right? You can feel it through TYSN's YouTube channel. You can feel how much these kids want it on the field. They don't care that it's 4 teams. Obviously, that's something we would like to expand on. But let's shift gears, guys. I could talk about the varsity division all day, but we got a ton of football to go through here. I think we'd be doing a disservice to not mention this Bantam A Cup game off the rip here. This is probably the best football game I've seen at the amateur level in person ever. I can't even think of a close second to this. What a game, man. I don't even know how to really describe it with words, but the Panthers do it again, man. They win I believe this is their third straight Bantam A Cup championship. They get over that hump. They lost to the Raiders. Obviously, we talked about it on that. I believe it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday earlier in the round robin. But what a game, man! These two quarterbacks going tit for tat. Just going at each other. Vincent Anderson and Andrew Coulson. I'd be doing it a disservice if I didn't mention them both. They both played their you-know-what off in that game, and I think both teams really deserved to win that championship. But let's talk about this final play. Me and Jesse were talking about it on the broadcast. Me and Jesse were calling this game in the booth, right? And we were talking about, leading up to this, what's the best plan here, right? Because the Panthers are going for a game-winning field goal, right? I believe it's 17-17, if I'm correct there, right?
Yep.
And me and Jesse are talking. I'm like, you got to kick the field goal. You can get a ruse. Jesse's like, it's too far. If anything, you punt it.
Too far.
You
thought you either punt it or you just put it in the offensive hands, try to get a first down.
Right. And Jesse's talking about, let's throw it here, and I'm talking about let's kick it and punt it, blah blah blah. And we're going back and forth, and then finally they get on the field with their kicking unit, and the ball is wide left, and the Raiders, what's that?
And short.
And a little bit short. And the Raiders had it played perfectly, man. I mean, they had, I think I want to say 4 or 5 guys in the end zone that, they knew what was going to happen. Either it goes through the uprights and they lose the game, or they're going to get that ball out by any means necessary. It misses wide left. The returner muffs it. It gets by the returner, and you can
hear... he slipped.
He slipped, yeah, and then it gets by him. And then that's where the craziest thing happens, because he's able to eventually scoop it up. He's able to get just enough on the kick back out of the end zone to get it out of the end zone, just enough, about the 1 or 2 yard line. And Johnny on the spot, a Cumberland Panthers, there to catch that ball and somehow keep his feet in bounds and score a game-winning touchdown for the Cumberland Panthers.
That was insane. I mean, I think the returner, I think it might have been Bo, that kind of tried to pick it up and slipped. Now, I think there was some benefit of the lights being so dark. So shout out to the city of Ottawa for not replacing some of those bulbs back there, because I think if the light was better, people would have seen that. Maybe he touched it while his knee and his butt was on the ground, and that would have been a dead ball.
Yeah, it was bang bang
right there.
Yeah.
But he did pick it up, and it's too hard to tell. Kicked it out of there, and like you said, it was like the half-yard line that he got it out to. And this kid, somehow has the state of mind to reach over the goal line. Now, I've heard some other people online saying that he was actually out of bounds.
Yes, I heard that.
Caught it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, a lot of controversy, but I think in terms of documented civilization of NCAFA, this is the best A Cup final ever.
Well, listen, maybe there's a couple of things that go uncalled there. But I would rather it that way. I'd rather the play out if it's bang-bang like that. Let's just see the play out. Because as you mentioned, the guy could have been, Bo, we think it is, could have been down in the end zone, which would have resulted in 1-point win for the Panthers. Boom, it would have been done anyways. But then the Panthers had the presence of mind to be in that right spot, right on the sideline. I mean, we have multiple angles of this play, right, which was great to see too. We have obviously our broadcast angle. Jared has a great angle, which you guys have seen that video on TYSN. Wensley has a great angle. Frosty by Mitchell got a great... So, we had multiple shots at it here, almost like we're in the replay booth with CBS and Tony Romo, right? And you're thinking, I don't know, Devin. But I love that they let the play out. It is a heartbreaking way to lose that championship game for the Raiders. Obviously, elation for the Panthers. Russell, I'll throw it to you. You got to interview Cumberland after this game. Obviously, they were very, gung-ho with adrenaline. But what was your takeaway from that game? Obviously, we've been covering the Bantam division all season. What a way to end it.
I mean, it was crazy. I just remember just the entire game. It's not always just this play. The entire game was just absolute cinema. I remember I was up with the cam crew, writing my notes and stuff. And the amount of times I just wrote Andrew Coulson's name in the sheet. I just wrote Coulson. I didn't need to know what he did. I just know it was great. And it's so cool to see a quarterback battle for a bunch of 16-year-olds, right? You think, these guys are 16, they can't throw, they can't play. No, these guys, it was phenomenal. These guys were making passes, making plays that's going to get intercepted or that's not going to go anywhere. Making, just getting the ball to their receivers, making these insane plays. And I'm not talking little stretch passes here. I'm talking like bombing it. Like they're looking down the field, they're pitching it all their power, finding their open guys. Phenomenal game all the way through, super back and forth. For a while, it looked like, the Raiders led for most of this game, right? And then Panthers come back, and then this insane play. I remember talking with everyone, cam crew, fans in the stands. Everyone was like, what happened? Like, what's going on? The best part about that play was that no one knew what happened. Everyone just saw the Panthers celebrating, and the Raiders' heads were down. It was phenomenal. No one knew what was happening. You had to talk to 6 different people to find out what was happening. I don't even think the players really knew what happened. When I was talking to them, people were like, I don't know what happened. I just know we won, right? It was just phenomenal. I think the experience for everyone there, except for the losing team, but the fan viewing experience was just outwardly. Like, I've never seen something like that.
Yeah, it sets the tone for another year. I think everyone's got to be.
I don't know how you top
back.
that, right? Like, it's just.
Right. But I also think, like, what we really saw there is, like, the talent across the city is there, these players, but then when you add, like, really good coaching on top of that, and then, obviously that there's a correlation between, like, the coaching level and the teams that make it the furthest. And then you get a game where, like, the potential of these players is really unleashed because they know what they're doing. They're in the right spots. They're aligning properly. That makes the difference of watching something like that and having a really good game, is that these coaches are also, like, duking it out in terms of what adjustments are being made on the fly. That's what makes that final so good in my mind.
And how lucky are we to have so many angles and so many people coming out and helping us out to really make that play, like, be in the heads of all faithful forever. Like, everyone will remember that play. We have so many angles of it. We've got Russell's post-game interview. You got the call with me and Jesse right here. Like, it was a privilege to be a part of the play. Like Russell said, like, nobody knew really what was happening. It was just a privilege to be a part of it, to be there. The stands were packed. Like Jesse said, it was a night game. Obviously, better lighting would have helped maybe both teams, but we'll leave that aside. It was just great to be a part of that game. And what I'll say is, I don't think either team lost that game. I just think Cumberland won it, right? Like, the Raiders did everything they could. They battled so good. Like you said, Russell, Andrew Coulson, hats off to that kid. He played phenomenal. But on the other side, man, Vincent Anderson, he definitely hears the Andrew Coulson buzz. And I was mentioning it on the podcast all year. I thought the Raiders were going to win this game because I think their quarterback play is going to propel them. And, man, Vincent Anderson played a phenomenal game himself. Very shifty, a dual-threat quarterback, made a ton of plays in this game. And, game-winning drive with, what was it, 30 seconds left where they drove down the field and he gave his team a chance to kick a game-winning field goal.
He ran like, what was it? It was on, like, second and long. He took off and he ran like a 17-year-old run, stepped out of bounds, got the first down,
Perfect.
Set up that field goal. Very cerebral in this kid. There's so many defensive players, offensive players that I really noticed in this game that I'm really curious to see, like, are they playing OSFL in the summer? Where are they going? Because, like, I mean, locally, the GGs and the Ravens would be mental if they're not keeping track of these kids. But I think, like, maybe even bigger programs like Western are looking at these kids, and some of the southern Ontario universities would be looking at these kids and making an effort on them.
Like a McMaster, maybe.
Matt Guelph, Laurier. I mean, Laurier is...
How about Laurier? Yeah,
there's so many good choices, right?
There's too much football to talk about. I got to keep us on the straight and narrow here, because, Canadian football was it's been a blast to cover it all year, especially this last month. But let's move off that game. I mean, I know we could talk about that game for literally ever. It was amazing. When this full episode comes out, if you haven't seen this play yet, it'll be some background footage of the play happening for sure. Make sure you go watch. We have a mini movie on it. We have Instagram videos on it. We obviously have the full.
You can put some links in the descriptions for the other ones.
Yeah. I'll do that and go check out that play. But let's stay in the Bantam division because me and Russell got a beef to settle here. It ends up being Myers versus Cornwall. Russell's darling, the Myers Riders, take on my former team, the Cornwall Wildcats. I was able to call this game as well with Shane. Myers dominates, man. I mean, there's no other really way to put it. I was talking with Kirby. I have a good relationship with Kirby, the president of the Wildcats. His son was the quarterback of that team, Bryce. He said his son was dealing with a bit of an injury throwing the ball, but you could see the trajectory of those balls coming out. I was like, this doesn't look like Bryce's throws, which makes sense, but That's not to make an excuse, though. The Myers team played phenomenal. This Charles Decaire, I hope I'm pronouncing that right because he was on the stream. Incredible, man. He was their quarterback and also a shutdown cornerback. He had 2 pick sixes in this game. 2 pick sixes, 5, I believe it was 5 total touchdowns. He threw for 2, ran for 1, picked off 2, and took them to the crib. Russell, I'm going to start with you. A dominating victory for your Myers team. And I'm going to pose this question to you as well as you recap this game because I know you're going to give me some grief here. Should they have been in that A Cup bracket? Should it have been a 4-team A Cup bracket with 1 playing 4, 2 versus 3? But yeah, let's hear your thoughts on the game in general first.
I'm going to start off with the question. I know a lot of these Myers fans aren't going to like this. I've kind of grown a little bit of a liking, so they're not going to like this answer. But no, they shouldn't have been in the A Cup bracket. They should have been the B Cup bracket. I mean, at the end of the day, like the only 2 teams they lost to were South Ottawa and Gloucester South, right? And they lost by blowout margins, right? Every other team, like Canada, Myers, that was their skill set, and they won. They were the best team, in the B Cup bracket. I mean, I predicted that. I figured that. But yeah, I think those A Cup teams they were just a different level. Obviously, there's tiers in this kind of league here, and you're kind of seeing it. It's not to say they're a bad team. They're a great team. They're 6-2. You're not a bad team if you're 6-2, right?
They played great.
And they played great all the playoffs. I think maybe getting promoted to the B Cup maybe gave them a little bit of fire, and you kind of saw they were really dominant in that final 2. They showed, hey, we are a good team at the end of the day, even though we didn't make the A Cup. So, crazy game. As always, I mean, I feel like there's kind of a theme here. All these games are just really crazy. It's just championship weekend just brings out the best in all these teams, right? So, I mean, just great overall. I think regardless whether or not they didn't qualify for the A Cup, I think they should be happy with the performance. You got a championship.
Oh.
A B Cup is your A Cup, right?
Doesn't matter.
Those
B championships are huge, and
Yeah,
that might have been the most dominant single player performance I have ever seen in NCAFA by number 1.
He's incredible.
Heroic, and I do agree. But in a perfect world, I think this is something that needs to happen in the future. We can never. I don't think a league should ever have to change the adjustment of a schedule like that. So I think it worked out this year, non-perfectly, but next year I do think that they should have the proper process to have Myers compete for an A. That should never be an opportunity taken away. So I think exceptional circumstances had a hand to play in 2024, but in 2025 I'd like to see Myers have a shot at playing and making it to the A Cup.
What changes do you think have to be made in order for that to happen? Is there anything in particular that you think needs to change?
Well, I mean, facts don't lie. You said we have levels, right? So at that Bantam level, we saw a great disparity between these Cumberland, South Ottawa, and Gloucester South teams. And then there was a huge step down to a very good B championship team, and then kind of a mile down with a lot of other teams that were kind of couldn't win a game or won 1 or 2 against some of the other lower level teams. So there's a parity issue, and I know that that's hard to fix, especially when you're dealing with kind of these youth sports. But if you look at kind of junior A hockey across the country, they go to great lengths to ensure that policy aligns with parity so that, you have kind of that league where anyone can win at any time. And then it becomes more about individual dedication, recruitment, and coaching, as opposed to just a team with just way more players or the coaching is so different. So I think to answer your question, it's not a simple thing to fix, but I do think that you have to spell out what are the indicators that would make an A Cup championship team, and make sure that the league is kind of leveling that field and making sure that everyone kind of has the ability to put that product on the field for these kids. Because also the talent is evident across the city. It's not the talent issue. It's more of all those other things that are more organizational.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't think it's an easy job, and I wouldn't want to have it to have to deal with that, because it's tough to kind of tier these teams, because each season's different, right? People graduate, and you're counting on players to come up from the younger levels and contribute, and sometimes that doesn't always happen. I think the biggest jump that you can make as a football player whenever you're younger is either Mosquito to Pee Wee or Pee Wee to Bantam. Really, Pee Wee to Bantam is a huge step up, because Pee Wee is kind of that middling tier of Kids are still learning and stuff. And not to say that you're not learning at Bantam and Varsity and all these. You're learning all the time, but at the Bantam level, especially, we definitely seen it this year. You guys are right. There was definitely the clear tier system. Otherwise, some of the other divisions didn't really have that. So I would like to see
and Devin, we talked about it too in past episodes. Like I think it was when we were talking to Mike Schmidt, but we identified that there's a mindset that's different than like fielding a team versus building a program.
Yeah.
So I think those are like the clubs that have this long-term vision of what they're doing that like isn't just about the here and now. Like they're putting this long-term strategy in place. That's where we see kind of those teams rise to the top.
Absolutely. Well, hats off to the Myers Riders. They earned that championship victory, even if it is a B Cup. B Cups are great, man. I would have killed for a B Cup when I was playing for the Wildcats. So hats off to that team. Hats off to Charles DeCare. Hats off to our buddy Zach in the booth. I know he's going to want to shout out. Shout out. He's a coach on that staff, so shout out to him. He gave me enough flack for it the next day. Don't worry, guys. I ate my words. It's fine. Myers gets the win there. Congratulations to them. Let's move down to this Pee Wee division. A Cup, another thriller with Cumberland coming out on top, man. They come out on top. They seem to just win these close championship games at the NCAFA level. They play the Bel Air Lions, another instant classic. I believe the final score of that one was 28-21 or 21-14. I can't remember exactly. We've covered a lot of football over the last few weeks. But that was another great game, and you could really see that those teams were very evenly matched, just as much as the Raiders and Panthers. Well, I don't know if anybody's as evenly matched as the Raiders and Panthers at the Bantam level, but that Pee Wee game was amazing to watch. I got to call that one as well. Jesse Momo, man, what a running back that kid is for the Cumberland Panthers. He built like a truck out there, just running over people. Really propelled the Panthers to win that game. But we're really starting to see like this U14 Panthers team becoming like a bit of a dynasty and really tough to beat. Bel Air gave it all they could, but Jesse, what were your takeaways from that game?
Yeah, same thing. I was really invested in watching that from the stands. I like some of these players. I was just I had a chance to chat with them throughout the year, and also just really nice kids.
Yeah.
that are really grounded, really humble, and you wanted to see them succeed. But it just seemed like Cumberland's defense was able to just kind of prevent anything big happening. And it was cool to see the adjustments that the coaches were making to try to spring some of their star players on the Lions. But it just seemed like the defense was so disciplined and so well. There were just not that many holes. But it was still a great game. So, that's just the way that you want to see a championship game end up.
Well, I'll mention one of the stars that they were trying to get going, who did get going. That's Shoeni Ngandi for the Lions, who I think might be the best U14 player in the entire province. I mean, this kid is electric on both sides of the ball. Cumberland only threw the ball about, 3 or 4 times, and he nearly intercepted all of them, and they said, let's just not do that anymore. Let's just run Jesse Momo and these other talented backs that Cumberland has. Obviously, they're able to come away with the win, and, we're going to let's just mention it right now, Mosquito as well. Cumberland, takes care of West Carleton. I guess we can kind of get this Cumberland trifecta done here, but they really take care of business at Mosquito. West Carleton, a great story, their best season ever in their program's history. They're undefeated up to that point. We kind of seen them run out of gas a little. Cumberland was just a little bit too big for them, I think, and they were able to win that game. But, how about from Mosquito to Bantam, Cumberland wins all 3 A Cups, and 2 of them were very, very close games, probably the best games of the weekend at Pee Wee and Bantam. Mosquito was a bit, got out of hand a little bit, but Jesse, I know you kind of had a piece on that, but all 3 of them.
Well, yeah, I mean, Bantam, Pee Wee, and Mosquito, Cumberland wins the A Cup championship, and we also got word that the president of the Cumberland Panthers, Mike Schmidt, is moving on. He's been with the club for so long. He's been with the league since he was a little kid. He played in it, so he's done some great things for the league and also the OSFL. But his 2 kids, his 2 sons are getting older. I think one is maybe done with football and NCAFA. So this type of work and volunteer work with the community doesn't last forever, and there's opportunity to move into different roles with maybe less of the burden and responsibility to run these clubs, especially at that high level that they were. So my question is, that's another really impressive year by the Panthers organization, but huge shoes to fill for that club. I think a lot of people are eagerly anticipating and wondering like who's going to step into that role over in Cumberland.
I also think too, it kind of speaks to like they have such a good program already. There's such big shoes to fill. I don't know how like who's gonna come in. You got to like replicate. We already talked about the Cumberland trifecta. How are you gonna like whoever comes in's got to kind of maybe not replicate, but you got to keep the standard there, right? So it's a big task to take on.
100%. He's done so much for the community. Done so much for us too, Jess. He's welcomed us with open arms to the Panthers organization anytime we wanted him. He was on the podcast for our kind of our pilot season, and he did a great job coming on with me and Russ and talking Panthers football and breaking down the Bantam and Pee Wee divisions. So yeah, that's big shoes to fill. Congratulations though to Mike for all his success and with the Panthers, with the OSFL, with NCAFA, did a great job helping build this Panthers team into the juggernaut that they are.
Well, and I'd say like the guy I know Mike to be, like he's going to be open to helping other people. Like we've got a few presidents that are shifting around in the league. Ahmed Zammer is taking over for the Bel Air Lions from John Smith, who's been at the helm for the Bel Air Lions for probably 30 or 40 years. That's something where, that gives an opportunity for Ahmed and the people that he surrounds himself to kind of take that organization in the direction that he sees and his vision. And then also Mike Hirsch, who took over or is taking over for Andy McCardle, Hall of Famer, both John Smith and Andy McCardle and NCAFA Hall of Famers. So, as much as the challenges are there and the shoes to fill, there are opportunities for evolution and innovation, and that can be exciting too. And I think if there's anyone that you can kind of go to as somebody to ask, their opinion or what they've done in the past to be successful, Mike's always there as a voice and a kind of a community coach.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is the perfect segue to mention our 2024 NCAFA Hall of Fame class, and it was a great opportunity to be there and watch each inductee get inducted. We had 4 of them get inducted on the Sunday NCAFA Championship weekend, and then Paul Stewart did his induction ceremony at the Fall Cup, so it was kind of worked out perfectly that we had both events in Ottawa. But I'll list the 5 inductees here quickly. In the builders category, our first referee ever, Don Wilcox, was inducted, which is great to see. He also called that crazy Bantam game that same night, so it was cool to see him get inducted and then call one of the best games in the CAFA history. Just goes to show how much he's enriched in the history of the game as a referee. And then Paul Stewart, Jesse, maybe you can touch on him quickly here before I list the other nominees. A Bell Warriors legend, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was. What can you say about Paul Stewart? I mean, he has taken over one of like the original, programs in the Bell Warriors. He's talking about filling shoes. He stepped in for Jim Wagden, who's also longtime, Hall of Famer, and he's been able to keep Bell Warriors as kind of like this constant anchor club in the league where everyone looks at Paul and the Warriors and it's like, that's what we should replicate our program to be. They do the right thing. They stand for the right values. They never waver from that. And they teach their players, how to be stand-up young people and citizens. So it's not all about football there, but they often have teams that can go the distance and win an A Cup. But yeah, no, I mean, Paul Stewart getting in is a no-brainer, and it's good.
And then in the players category, we had Jonathan Sutherland and Pat Woodcock, and then our lone coach for this season was Grant Morden, who was on the Bel Air Norseman staff for the last, I think it was like 20-plus years. Obviously didn't go his way that weekend, but obviously a great recognition for him. Love to see the class every year. There's so much, 69 seasons, right? We just finished our 69th season. There's so many people that are I'd say, worthy and deserving of these honors. But it's great to see that list every year get bigger and bigger. And, one takeaway I have from that event is, you just see like the family-orientated event that it is whenever that induction ceremony happens. You see the player or the inductees' families off field side waiting for them to get their award, a big round of applause. There's tons of people by the field at that time just talking about probably the league and sharing some of their best stories from the past 69 years, right? There's so much to go through. That was kind of my big takeaway, but I just want to say, on behalf of TYSN, congratulations to all 5 inductees, and thank you for what you've brought to the city of Ottawa and to this league for so many years. Jess, do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, it was cool. Like, I think you said that perfectly, Devin, and if you look now, like, the Hall of Fame and that induction ceremony has only been going on 4 years now or so, um, but there's 25 members now inducted. So now I wonder, like, are there some events that can happen? Are there some other initiatives that they can take on themselves? So it's kind of cool to see that threshold is now at 25 people that are part of this group that keep coming back every year. So that's kind of neat too. I think there's potential of doing more with that group.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I think I might just throw it to the floor here to each of you to kind of round up NCAFA Championship weekend, because we could go game by game, but that'll take a while. I just kind of want to wrap up this weekend and get on to the Fall Cup and kind of get your guys' key takeaways from that weekend and maybe final thoughts for NCAFA Championship weekend. So, Russell, I'll throw it to you.
I think overall, first time is a great experience. Can't wait to watch it again next year. Hopefully be a part of it again next year. It's just a great time. And I mean, like, can't get better than that Panthers-Raiders game, right? Like, this is such a great first time. Like, so yeah, overall, amazing experience.
I would say, Devin, that there are some headlines to go into the off season with. I think momentum or just in terms of like interest in the sport and the league is at an all-time high. That championship week sends us into 2025 in a good place. If you look at some of the pictures from Wanda Keenan from like the stands, and like it just looked like this is something significant, so not only are we talking about preserving it, which I think maybe a lot of people around the league have been talking about for the last little while, like how do we preserve, how do we keep it going? Now it's more of like, where is this going to go and what can we do with this league? Because it's in a stage where it can grow. It's in good hands. It's stable ground, so that's good to see.
Yeah, well, I also think that for this league, I mean, just seeing how much coverage was from that weekend. Obviously, we talked about our volunteers, but seeing all the social media posts. You mentioned Wanda, Jesse. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention her as well. Doing a great job with photography all season long. Most of the photos that you see come out are taken by Wanda or some of the volunteers that we had from that weekend. So it really takes a village, and I think you've seen that weekend. But it's such a great village to be a part of, and just being able to be a part of it was incredible. Like Russell said, that was his first time. Jesse, that was probably your 15th, 20th time, and then for me it was like my 10th time. But each of them are special, right? Each of them are really amazing to be a part of. So thank you for having us for that NCAFA Championship weekend. I hope you guys all enjoyed the coverage of that. But just 2 weekends later, man, we got to welcome in the OFFL, all of their champions, to compete for provincial championships. And hats off to the Ontario Fall Football League, Mike Fascione, the president over there. Hats off to all of their teams because they win 4 out of 5 provincial championships over our NCAFA teams. So a great day hosted by Football Ontario, obviously in collaboration with NCAFA this year in Ottawa. A great day. Always love to see kind of the split stands and see the OFFL people, traveling that far, or whether it's Ottawa traveling there. Great to see the packed house in there. But Jesse, what was your key takeaways from that weekend? Always love to see the crossover and the kids competing for provincial championships.
Well, so I helped the league with like setting up that weekend a little bit, and we didn't have a canteen, right? So in terms of having somebody come in, serve some burgers and dogs and coffees, that would have sucked if we didn't have that. So shout out to Scott Statham and Roy from Eastside Mario's in Bell's Corners. Roy came in he owns Eastside Mario's out there. They set up an amazing canteen and fed everyone that was there. The weather was good, fortunately, but I mean those are two like shout outs and another a testament to the community. Scott still coaches Bantam at the Bell Warriors. His son, and I think his daughter was involved too, but they've moved on a long time ago, and now he still jumps at the opportunity to help the league. So that's a testament of the kind of people that are part of this community. But it was really neat, like being at the Sportsplex, especially like after seeing all these awesome games of Championship Week. You got like Durham Dolphins jackets coming in, and like I'm wondering what they're thinking about the facilities, the Sportsplex, Minto Field. Like it's cool to kind of watch it through their eyes, and I think NCAFA did a great job hosting. And they, a lot of people said this facility's great. I heard them say that. So the games were good. Like you said, 4 to 5 went to the OFFL. We're talking about if we're nitpicking like bigger regions, Durham versus Nepean or something, or Cornwall, or Durham played.
Durham played Cumberland at U12. Yeah.
Cumberland, right? But at the end of the day, like I think the Fall Cup is a fairly new property. This the third or fourth time that it's happened. So I definitely think the overall sentiment was this is worth it. This extra week is good to bring different sectors in, and you get a good game, and you never know when it's your season that you could take it all the way and defeat kind of everyone in your class to become the provincial champion. I remember the Bell Warriors did it against Oakville, but 2 or 3 years ago. So you never know, right? If you're there, you could win a provincial championship.
Well, shout out to we'll go through the whole list here because it was only 5 games. We can kind of cover them briefly, but at the Tyke level, both NCAFA teams actually go undefeated, and we didn't mention it yet. But congratulations to the Cornwall Wildcats continuing their dynasty at the Tyke level, winning the NCAFA Championship weekend, and then. Funny enough, the team that they beat in the NCAFA Championship weekend, the Orleans Bengals, the couple weekends later, they win the provincial championship at Tyke. Both teams going 2-0, the Bengals and the Wildcats there. So kind of cool that they kind of got to split the championship victories, the two best Tyke teams in the NCAFA. So that was kind of cool to see. But then, yeah, Mosquito, man. The Niagara Generals and the Durham team, I mean, they were just really, really well coached and had a lot of talent. It was tough for our NCAFA teams to kind of deal with that because, as you mentioned, it's such a smaller region. But that's nothing to take away from Durham and Niagara, man. I mean, whenever I was watching those games, I was like, wow, like, okay, like, I didn't know that they were showing up with their Pee Wee team as well. Like, this is crazy. Like, they were so much bigger, and I was like, this is crazy, man. So hats off to Niagara and Durham for winning those championship games pretty handedly. But then you get to the Pee Wee division, and that's where the sparks really flew. And fellas, this is easily the best game of that Saturday. The Nepean Eagles taking on the Peel Panthers. That was a back and forth battle. Great to see the talent all over the field. Some of the future OSFL stars in that game. Alex Stevenson and Lachlan Fleming, to mention a couple for Nepean. And then on the other side, for the Panthers, Caden Hamilton had an incredible pick six and scored both touchdowns for them on the day. But that was easily the best game of the day. And what did we say? We always said the B Cup game at this provincial the B Cup U14 game at the provincial championships for the last 3 years has been the game of the weekend, and it did not disappoint once again. Congratulations to Peel for winning that game, but congratulations to both teams for putting on a show.
Yeah, that was incredible game, back and forth. Like, a lot of times you're watching like a great pro football, an NFL or CFL game, and the teams are evenly matched, and I love those defensive games that are just amazing. Yeah. Every play is magnified, but we got that at the Pee Wee level. I mean, these two teams were well coached and amazing athletes, and yeah, it was just really good to see that these kids were figuring it out on the field, making plays, going through their playbooks. They've learned a lot throughout the year, and it's going to be exciting to see where they go next.
And then Cumberland and Burlington, which is becoming a provincial rivalry, which was our U14 Tier 1 game. Burlington's able to really put on a defensive showcase in that game and really slow down Cumberland's running attack. They were extremely well coached. We had head coach Sydney Parks on, who I was exchanging messages with before the weekend, and he said, I got to come on the show every time now because this is a good omen. He comes in, they have an undefeated season and win a provincial championship, so hats off to them. But I'll throw it to you here, Jess. Is this becoming a real provincial rivalry here? And we've seen these two teams either at U14 or U16 meet the last 3 seasons in the OSFL or provincial championships, all 3 going to Burlington. So how does Cumberland get over this hump? And this is a great storyline to kind of cover heading into this OSFL season. This is becoming a real provincial rivalry, kind of similar to what we've seen in the past with maybe an Essex and Myers back in the day, right? This is really becoming cool to see.
It is. I mean, is it becoming? No, it is. It already is. There you go. And, when you add in the fact that Mike Schmidt's leaving as the president, I think that also weighs into it as a real variable. Like, are we going to see it again? I think these two sectors, Cumberland, East Ottawa, being able to build that program, same thing. Like, Burlington is a football town. It's a factory. we heard it from Sydney when he talked about how the high schools work with the Stampeders in the way that they do. A lot of the coaches are the same coaches. They support both like kind of the U14, U12s, and then when the kids get old enough, they go to one of the high schools. And I think the most notable program is the Nelson Lords. So,
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I think Burlington set themselves up as a football community where they're going to be right at the top every year, and we hope that an Ottawa representative can kind of stay there, and Cumberland has been there and they've won. So it's interesting. I think the other rivalry in the summer football league that's really good is Hamilton and
Burlington?
and Hamilton and Burlington, but also like Hamilton and Essex too. These are also like heavyweight games that happen every year. What's interesting is like what other programs can start to kind of step into that level, right? Like the more the better. That would really make the Ontario Summer Football League an incredible league to follow and be a fan of, is if you start seeing other programs step into that like upper echelon.
Well, a little more on the OSFL later. Russell, I kind of wanted to throw it to you because you weren't able to attend the Fall Cup, but seeing the scores and seeing some of the takeaways, what was kind of like your main takeaway from that weekend and kind of, taking it in as a spectator?
I think it was another great weekend of football. I was really bummed I wasn't able to attend, but I mean, it's really cool, right? And we talked about, Jesse was talking about a potential provincial rivalry. You wouldn't be thinking that, two teams who play each other like maybe once a year would have a rivalry, but when you've met so consistently in the Fall Cup, it is forming. And I think like these guys are probably like, oh, we're facing these guys again. Like, oh, we got to win this time, right? So I think the rivalries are great. I think the fact that we can form provincial rivalries is really cool. And I think overall it just adds to the magic of fall football.
That's a good point, Russell. Burlington and Cumberland are only going to play once, maybe twice a year if they're scheduled in the regular season. But most of the time when they meet, it's for a championship, which, there's a lot on the line. If you're going to play, 3 years in a row of this, too. 2 years in a row at U16 in the OSFL, and now they play in the Fall Cup against each other. There's some bad blood there, man. I know if you're Cumberland, you're thinking, man, like, we need to get over that hump and win that championship. But Cumberland's doing all right. They won a NCAFA Championship at U14 and an OSFL Championship this year at U14, so they're doing okay. But from this day there, Saturday at the Sportsplex, I want to give another huge shout out to all the volunteers who came out for TYSN, for NCAFA, for Football Ontario. I can kind of echo the same sentiment where it's the same people. It was Jared coming out, and Sarah came out, and Frosty came out, and all the camera ops again, and we're all out there, doing what we got to do, and it was awesome. But a huge shout out to Zach once again for jumping in the booth with us, calling the 2 games. He did a great job the 2 weekends helping us out, bringing the voice, bringing the life to the game that you're watching on the field. But also Tristan from Mississauga, the U14 Huskies head coach, who will be in the OSFL. He's team in the OSFL. He made the trip from Mississauga just to call those games. He stayed the night. Even when he wasn't calling the last game, he stayed and watched it. That's how big of a football junkie he was. He was incredible, man. Tristan, I know you're watching this. Thank you so much for making the trip and jumping in the booth. I got to call that Peel versus Nepean game with him, which was the game of the day. So really, shout out to him.
You guys were good together.
Yeah, he was awesome, man. He was. You could just feel the love of football coming from him, and I was like, I gotta match him. I didn't drive 6 hours from here. I only drove an hour and a half from Cornwall. I thought I was the crazy one. But no.
No, we need more guys like Tristan. Shout out, that's cool, and I think like it's good to know there's somebody like that down in Toronto. Find more Tristans. That's what I gotta say.
And I think people like Tristan also kind of really embody kind of the TYSN spirit, like what we're all like, what you guys are trying to build here at the program. Having guys who drive from Mississauga to call a Fall Cup game, that's awesome, right? You don't see a lot of people like that. So when you see people like him doing that, it's super special.
Well, and I'd say from my perspective, what I'm really interested in and the thing that I think shouldn't be lost is those opportunities for young people, even Russell, you going in the program that you are, you wanting to work in sports, Devin, you as well, we saw this year more than ever there are other kids out there like that, like Frosty by Media by Frosty and Wensley Media. They're doing amazing things, but I think, it's so hard to just do it on your own, to have an organization like TYSN to help bring them into something bigger and maybe open up some other doors. I think we're just starting to scratch the surface. And in fact, I know you want to talk about the high school, but from my capacity, I was able to really find a few teachers that are champions for the same kind of core idea, which is there are a lot of kids that want to work in like live broadcasts and sports, and there are tons of opportunities. Like an individual I want to mention is Leo Doyle, who's the community ambassador for the Ottawa Blackjacks professional basketball team. He has been saying this for years in the Ottawa community, that we don't need to create new programs and opportunities for youth. Like, they already exist. You can be a referee in any sport as kind of part-time paid positions. You can coach, you can intern, you can join an organization like TYSN and stick around the game. And I tell you, when you do good things and you're passionate about it, like, people notice and doors open and things happen. So you just got to be active in the space that you want to be in. You can't wait for somebody to give you the opportunity. You got to take that first step yourself. But we're seeing it now this year, I think, Devin, with all the kids that are coming around and asking me like, hey, I was talking to Devin online. I want to volunteer. So that's cool to see. I think that's the thing that really excites me the most.
Yeah, well, to put a bow on kind of the Fall Cup, I just wanted to say thank you once again to our volunteers. Like I mentioned, I can't name everybody because I'll forget somebody, but you know who you are. You guys did a phenomenal job helping us out. It really took all hands on deck, and it was kind of an amazing way to wrap up the season in Ottawa. But I also wanted to thank Football Ontario for help put on that event. And once again, just starting that initiative, I think, is such a great idea. You have these two matching fall leagues, putting a wrap to their season, going head to head, see who the best in the province is. It's just a great community building experience. And then I also wanted to thank them for joining us on the broadcast and helping us, enlighten us on kind of their seasons a little bit more. For people who didn't know, we had Aaron and Mike on in the booth with me, able to pick their brain a little bit, talking to Aaron about all the great stuff that happened at Football Ontario this year. Obviously, we'll get more into that later on, and after this recap show, that'll be something that we talk about. But thank you both to Aaron and Mike for jumping on the broadcast team with us. Wasn't able to get Rob because Rob's too busy running around doing so much for NCAFA. Love seeing Rob. He's out there, giving people tickets to get in. He's out there, talking to the Hall of Fame nominees, making sure they're in the right spot, handing out the awards. So he was too busy to jump up with us. But, Rob, great season as him, taking over the leadership and spearheading that. It's tough to take over the league and have 2 championship weekends in your first season, right? Because it's a lot to manage, and obviously Football Ontario helps with the Fall Cup, and that's their event. But NCAFA still has to host it. So hats off to everyone involved.
Yeah, Rob knocked it out of the park for sure.
Did incredible. But Fall Cup was amazing. The NCAFA Championships are amazing. We're sorry if we didn't get to every single game or every single news story. We had a lot to talk about. It's been a few weeks to debrief. We've had a bunch of games to stream and get through here, but my sentiment from those 2 championship weekends specifically, it was great, right? Because we got to cover the OFL and the CAFA all year, especially us 3 on this show, and people really got behind it. And we were mentioning it kind of before we hit the record button here, but we had a bunch of people come up and tell us hey, love the show, the show's awesome. People we didn't even know, right? They're just stopping me and Russ or Jess and being I love what you guys are doing. When's the next one coming out? Zach was in my ear the whole time in the booth whenever we weren't on air, being you got to put a show out, man. You got to talk about Myers just beating up your Cornwall Wildcats. And I'm you know what, Zach? But it was awesome to see everybody get behind us and support this show and support these 2 leagues and the culmination of both.
One thing we can't forget, too, is Adam Boxall.
Oh, my God.
Adam Boxall is
incredible.
Phenomenal PA guy, so prepared, what a pro. So shout out to Adam for doing the Fall Cup and some of the championship week, being the PA guy. Phenomenal job. You're top of the list. Also Steve Val, who did the Varsity League all year, getting everyone pumped up on Friday nights. Two great community leaders that are making football a lot better because they're involved.
I have a story about Adam. You're right, Jesse. Cannot not mention Adam. He was so great. I was in the booth most of the time on both championship weekends, and he was just awesome to be around and making sure things were communicated properly between us. And one of the great things that he did was we didn't have a roster for the Raiders and Panthers game, which we kind of knew most of their key players, and we're kind of able to piece it together. But during one of the breaks, Adam goes out and writes down each because he had a list of the roster. They brought it up to him. We didn't have one for the broadcast team. He writes each person's name and their number for both teams on a paper and comes and hands it to us. So, Adam, you did a great job. He also sent me the rosters for the Fall Cup, which I was able to print out ahead of time, make sure we had them for the broadcast, so that was good. Yeah, shout out to Adam. There's so many people, right, that we might even be forgetting some others, but you know who you are. You did a great job. Thank you for letting TYSN be a part of you. Thank everyone for watching the stream, by the way. We had some great numbers on a lot of the games. It was incredible to see all the people talking in the chat, especially at the Fall Cup, where it's like, people from, the GTA are talking to people from Ottawa, and they're like, this is super cool. I'm cheering for number 23. I'm cheering for number 65, whatever it was. It was great to see. We hope you enjoyed all the coverage of that weekend. And I think this is kind of the perfect segue. We're getting to the time here to kind of let Russ go here and also thank Russ for everything that he's done for us this season. Jesse, I'm going to start here, but Russ, man, you jumping on with us, being a part of the show, being a well-known staple for the Ottawa football community now. People are stopping in and asking about your takes. I mean, a year and a half ago, you didn't even know what this league was, man. You know what I mean? So it's been really cool to see you, making some time in your schedule as a student and also helping out with the Sens and the Algonquin Wolves to come on and jump on with us and do this every week, man. Really appreciate it and all the gratitude for you, man. And you're going to do amazing things in this business. So really thank you for jumping on this.
I want to thank you guys as well for having me on. It was a great experience. It was great. I just had a great time doing it with you guys. I think it's really helped me further along my career as well. I'm just very fortunate to have the opportunity to do this and coming out on the championship weekend. So I want to thank you guys as well. It was a great experience. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Russ, you did amazing. Like, such a pro. I remember, all the other volunteers and people are kind of like, who's that? Like, how'd you get him kind of comments, because you just seemed like you were at that level, really polished. But no doubt that, you're going to get some eyeballs on you for your career and what you're doing, and just keep up the good work.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you guys. Like I said, it's a great opportunity to come on here and talk football with you guys. So I'm very fortunate for the opportunity.
And Russ, I'm gonna put Russ's information in the description and maybe tag him on Instagram. Make sure you go shoot him a follow. Russ, I'm pretty sure you also post some of maybe your clips from broadcasting, or you do some of the things on your Instagram channel. I would encourage you to keep doing that and maybe even pile together some of the interviews you did for NCAFA Championship weekend. Maybe we can pile that together for Russ and make sure he has that, because it was a phenomenal job by you. But, once again, thank you so much, Russ. You did such a good job. And everybody, make sure, you thank Russ. And also, Russ will be back on with us. Don't worry. We'll get him involved in something, maybe some hockey, maybe a little sprinkle some other sports. Who knows? But, yeah, no, once again, Russ, from the entire TYSN team, entire NCAFA family who was stopping him in the streets to get his takes. Thank you again, buddy.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Thank you to the whole NCAFA community. It was absolutely surreal being able to do this for everyone involved. I just want to thank everyone. So have a good one, guys. I'll see you guys again soon.
This highlight video is brought to you by Canada Granite. Canada Granite is your one-stop full-service granite and quartz shop. Choose from beautiful in-stock slabs or select a customized piece for your dream renovation. Our precise measurements and expert installations makes your design look perfect every time. We're proud to offer the largest inventory of full slabs in the Ottawa area, as well as a huge selection of remnants. Come in and check us out.
All right, welcome back. Once again, just wanted to thank Russ for joining us and thank everyone who helped make this show and this season possible. Now to shift gears a little bit, obviously, hopefully the community got to see the high school championships, the Ottawa High School Championships, also get live streamed by TYSN at Carleton. Great experience for TYSN to get involved with that. I got to call that game with Ron Raymond. But Jesse, as the executive director of Youth Ottawa, obviously I've seen a lot of students from Immaculata come there and get to play behind the scenes of some of these media roles that we had, like the broadcast booth, the directing, the camera operation. What made that all possible, and how did this event kind of come to fruition?
Well, first off, thank you, Dev, for being open to the idea, and I know it's just one extra thing kind of to do.
It was awesome.
And when Steve and Spencer's setting up, and you've got to know who's who and calling the game, but truthfully, what we saw with NCAFA too, when you open up these opportunities to young people that want to learn more and get involved and keep involved in sports, the organizations, the clubs, and the schools, in this case for the high schools, like they love the fact that more people are getting involved and helping, because there's no shortage of work to be done. So if you can add like a photographer or videographer here and there, and maybe even get people into the live broadcast like we were able to expose them to, I think there's a huge potential to like grow school sports, youth sports, and that's what TYSN is all about.
Yep.
So yeah, shout out to Immaculata High School for kind of taking the opportunity. There's 41 students that it was way more than I thought, but they showed up, and everyone kind of got broken into
Yep.
groups. They were able to see what was happening with you and the crew, and that's the first time that TYSN's ever done work with like the National Capital Secondary School Athletic Association.
Yeah,
So
man.
I hear that that is something that we can continue to push, and my role of really focusing on developing young entrepreneurs and also young businesses that are doing things to involve young people and giving opportunities, like Russ is a perfect example. I think the sky's the limit. So super cool that was able to happen this year, and a shout out to all the sponsors that were helped make that happen. So it's cool, and I think I've taken a little bit more of a keen eye, especially after the show that you had Jeff Coventry on, who's
Yep.
St. Matt's high school teacher, and then also really leading the charge on Ontario high school football. It's opened my eyes up, and I think conversations need to happen about like how maybe high school is something that we look at more closely as a football community in Ottawa.
Totally. Well, from a TYSN standpoint, I would say, thank you, obviously, to Youth Ottawa, but just being able to break through that high school sector and have a place where, people can go watch these, the high school city championship live. I mean, I think that's a must, right? I mean, like, if we're streaming these NCAFA games, and obviously we have a great relationship with NCAFA, and they take care of us and enable us to do these things and stream these games. This is something that should happen every year as the high school championships get filmed and streamed, right? And for us to be able to bring that to you in collaboration with, Youth Ottawa and Carleton and the NCSSA, it was great. It was great to see, man. And I had a blast doing it with Ron and then calling that game. But quick shout out to the St. Joe's Jags as well for winning that game, their second straight city championship. They went to OFSA, fortunately lost to St. Roch, a team out of the GTA. But a great season for them. It was a great game at Carleton. And one of the things I wanted to mention before we move off the topic is just the outstanding support at that game, and you see the school band is there, the school cheerleaders are there. I mean, I could barely even hear Ron sitting right beside me because we had I believe it was the St. Mark band up in the grandstands right beside us. So it was kind of tough to get through. But it was awesome.
I went back and watched a little piece, and it sounds like the NCAA D1 where it's like there's a marching band over top of the feed. It was pretty cool, and shout out to both teams. Some great athletes that will go on to the next level, and fortunately, because of TYSN, we were able to watch it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's a must, like I said. So hopefully it's something we can continue to do in the future, and I think breaking through this year will pay dividends later on, and hopefully we get to do more with them. And as TYSN, we're always looking to grow, not only in football, but in all sports, and give young people especially a chance to have an outlet. And we've seen that not only at the high school championships, getting to do that and have all those Immaculata students come and kind of shadow us, but like we mentioned before, earlier in the show, all these volunteers coming out and helping us at NCAFA and Fall Cup Championship weekend, those are all students from either college or universities or high schools in Ottawa, and to have that opportunity for them to get behind sports, community sports, and chase a career in that stuff. I mean, it's great to see, and I love that TYSN can provide that platform.
For sure. And there's, if you're not talking about sports, there's other companies doing that, like Hot Shoe Productions,
Yep.
doing that in more of the filmmaking space, having young people be a part of that. So it's great. It's great to see, and it's exciting. Like, I think, wouldn't it be cool to get some students involved in the high school senior boys championship for in the new year, right? So, very cool. Great.
And
year.
One last shout out I wanted to give, obviously, to Ron for jumping in with me and calling that game. His football knowledge, we've already talked about it, but that was my first time calling a game with the great Ron Raymond, so I can't wait to do it again. Ronnie, if you're listening, had a great time, buddy. And then also shout out to Carleton. Obviously, their beautiful field, got to go call a game there, and that was awesome to have the Carleton grandstands and be there right on campus. Great for the teams and great for us to call that game. So I think that's a wrap on the high school city championship and kind of a wrap on our last month of football that we covered, which feels like 2 years because of all this stuff TYSM was doing. But once again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for helping us out and putting this on. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible with the volunteers and the audience who make this possible and give us their unwavering support. So amazing.
And a shout out to you, Devin. Great job all season. And Steve and Spence, thank them.
Yeah.
You know, the best thing is they're always open to ideas for me of throwing kids that tell me they want to work in sports. I send them to you, and you always find a spot for them.
And they've been great ones. So thank you for making that possible for us, and love the connection that we have. But I kind of wanted to shift gears here and kind of put a bow on our final episode here before we wrap up and take a little bit of a break for the new year and come back at you with some new ideas and some new concepts and some new shows. The OSFL is the next big ticket as far as the football in Ontario goes. Obviously, we have flag football also coming up and some off-season camps. But I kind of wanted to dive a little bit deeper into the OSFL and maybe throw this to the audience here and really give the audience a chance to describe what they want and tell us what they want to see and tell us what they want to hear, because we're looking to make this show a bigger scale thing, and we really appreciate the pilot getting so successful and people supporting it so much, and we can't wait to move this over to the OSFL. But Jesse, I kind of wanted to ask you as a supporter of the OSFL, what are kind of your big takeaways and things that you're looking forward to in the OSFL, and what would you kind of like to see TYSN cover on not only this show but maybe our social media platforms and things of that nature?
Well, how many years has the OSFL
I believe coming up, this is our fourth year, maybe third or fourth year of the OSFL. Yeah.
Okay, so I like to see just it build every year, So to me, it would be like really getting more of the organizations involved in the conversations. So part of that, I think, is what your question is like, what does everyone want to see? The customer is never wrong, right? So like in terms of some of that, but it's an opportunity to kind of connect and chat in the off season and the conversation of football. Like I think football is at a point now, especially with flag, but it's such a popular sport, and those that follow football and played football, they consume it 12 months a year. So there really is no off season, but I think for clubs, and we talked about it, to run like a program and to be relevant, it is a 12-month thing. You need to build capacity. You need people to help you. And if we're, chatting about it more often than not, kind of a water cooler type show where we can talk about things, bring guests on, and keep the conversation happening even in the off season, I think that will lead to some other evolutions with the league. So very curious, but I would want to hear from other people from all over the province of what we could do, certain features we could add. But I think highlighting some of the players that are in the league and where they're going and some of that could be cool. I also see that, on the YouTube algorithm that I have, there's people covering the OUA. There's the Canadian Football Perspective, Marshall Ferguson's kind of project that he's been working on, now working with the CFL and TSN. But he has a few people in Toronto that are talking about OUA all the time, which is cool. There's a new show, the 55-yard line, where I think a couple ex-OUA people are talking about the OUA. So it's good to see more coverage. Just as you mentioned in kind of youth football in Ottawa, there's a bunch of people coming out. We have multiple angles on everything, different opinions. I think that's all good stuff for kids, because the more that they see on their Instagram about the league, the more incentive I think there is to join a team and get the benefits of playing sports. So I'm looking forward to just seeing where the media goes and also where the league goes.
Well, I agree with that wholeheartedly, Jesse. I really want to hear from the audience, and I know you've already been vocal, and it's been great to have these back and forth conversations and hear what you guys want to see or hear what maybe you agree or disagree with, right? I mean, this is a platform, an opinionated platform that we're just trying to highlight our sport in this province mainly, right? So drop some comments, DM us, tell us what you want to see on this show, especially covering the OSFL. Our loose script is maybe to do, maybe 1 or 2 shows a month leading up into the OSFL season, talking about the biggest stories, talking about the headlines and where teams are at and how their training camps are going. We'll get a bunch of interviews going on with people from all over the province. The great thing about the Ontario Summer Football League is it's literally the entire province of Ontario, so there's a lot of perspective to kind of take in there, and I'm excited to cover the sport. I know we've had some off-air conversations, Jess, about the OSFL, just being fans of it and following it and how great of a league it's become and will continue to do. But yeah, make sure you tell us what you want to see, and also, stay tuned on the TYSN YouTube channel for other things other than this show and live streams. Something that I'm going to be looking into in the off season is doing some more highlight videos of covering some big stories around the sport in Ontario, and have some plans to do that. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and stay along with us for this journey. But first and foremost, let us know what you want to see, especially surrounding the OSFL. But Jess, I'm going to throw it to you for kind of your final thoughts. I think we've kind of touched on everything perfectly here. This is a bit of a longer episode that we have, but we had a lot to break down, which is always good, right? That these things are being covered, and we've loved bringing it to you. But Jess, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, just great job, Dev. Bringing this show every week, and I think overall just positive football season. It's good to see the sport where it is in this neck of the country, and I am excited for 2025. I'm going to try my best to encourage my 4-year-old son to join flag football as soon as possible.
Right on.
And I'm looking forward to the new year, but definitely I think everyone can use a break, watch a little NFL football, and before you know it, it'll be the spring.
Oh, absolutely. Well, once again, want to thank the entire Touchdown Ontario audience for joining us this whole fall. It was great to pilot this show and kind of make it come to a reality and really give a platform to these athletes, these coaches, these organizations, to kind of talk about them, talk about their story, have people on to describe what the pulse is in Ontario for this sport. But first and foremost, we're happy to bring it to you. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching Touchdown Ontario. This fall football finale here on TYSN. We'll see you in the new year. Thanks for joining us.
TYSN would like to thank Football Ontario for its support of the Touchdown Ontario program.